Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all of the praises and the glory to the Most High and His Son, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Ba'ashem, Rekah, Quadash. And double honor to the apostles of the great millstone that taught us what we know today, this truth. Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua, Brakatham, to all of those that are in it. And it's your brother Laban coming at you with another video for this week. And this is going to be a part 2 to the last video that I did in regards to the problems facing this state of Israel, which is in a state of disgrace, which has always been since they've got into the land anyway, proclaiming this lie, saying that they're the people, when in fact by the action show and as well as by prophecy proves that they're not. So now let's get into it. CNBC News, as you can see I'm on, as this reads: Israel's Netanyahu rules out civil war as mass protest divides the country over judicial reform. So we'll go as far as to read: Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu dismisses the possibility of civil war in his country, which has recently been rattled by protracted mass protests over judicial reforms. There won't be a civil war. I guarantee you that, Netanyahu said in an NBC News interview aired Monday, in a bid to alleviate concerns that Israel's civil and social crises could escalate to substantiate the March warning of Israeli President Isaac Herzog. At the heart of the conflict is a judiciary amendment passed into law by a final vote 64-0 in Israel's parliament last week that limits the unelected Supreme Court's ability to overrule government decisions it deems unreasonable. Opponents of legislation argue that it substantively weakens the purview of Israel's top legal court and paves the path for abuses of power and improper appointments, raising the stakes of the judicial changes. Israel lacks a formalized written constitution and instead depends on a set of basic laws. And let's read this part as well of the article that I want to also focus on, and then we're going to get to the scriptures. Mass demonstrations have erupted for months in key cities, Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, resulting in police clashes and numerous arrests. Hundreds of Israeli reservists joined the protests and last month pledged to refuse their volunteer service if the judiciary overhauls push forward Reuters reported. So the reason why I wanted to jump down and reading this part of the article, because I want to connect with the precepts that I have. And the first precept that I want to read is Isaiah 32 and verse 1. Behold, a king shall reign in righteousness, and the princes shall rule in judgment. So that's referring to King David and as well as the 144,000. So now let's elaborate how they would reign in righteousness. Let's read the book of Isaiah 9 and verse 6, and the point is in verse 7. For unto us a child is born, and unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, and the Prince of Peace. Just as I've mentioned in my last video, as they call it because of us, Jerusalem, which is known as what? The city of peace. The meaning of that term, Jerusalem, we don't see peace. And the reason why we don't see peace, I could basically say because they're not the people. But let me specify even in this video, and this one is no different. I'm going to just further prove and show that these are not the people, because for one, what we should have all seen due to the lie that they've publicated 75 years ago and still reaffirm now by calling themselves the people of the Bible, what we should have saw was the Messiah return. As it is written, all eyes will bear witness to his return, and as well as the mighty angels which will follow with him. We didn't see that. What we saw when we go back in time, is that the British government was responsible in establishing the state of Israel. Okay? Another thing that we haven't seen is this over here. Let's read verse 7. And of the increase of his government in peace, there shall be no end. So when they got into the land of Israel back around that same time, they had some scuffles with them Arabs. All right. And as well as they still do, that are in Palestine. Ever since they got there, there's been no peace. That's just one thing that I can mention as well. Or another thing. So it reads, let's read this again. And of the increase of his government in peace, there shall be no end. And upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth even forever. And the zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform this. So once again, as I'm going to say, when they got into the land, they had some problems with those Arabs, and yet and still they have issues ongoing with the Palestinians and even among themselves, because the people are realizing that their government is moving in corrupt ways. They have lied. Prophecy doesn't back them that they're the people returning back to the land, because if that was the case, there would be peace between the people in that land, first and foremost, and their rulers. And as well as there will be peace even towards these other nations as well. And I'm speaking about peace among these nations. To bring the peace overall, these people, they control 100% of the media. Let's just get that straight. All right. So they could have easily proclaimed, as well as what they're doing right now. Right now, they're proclaiming corruption. Okay, and having the multitude of the population being persuaded under that corruption. Okay, whatever form of corruption you want to talk about, right now as it stands, they're proclaiming it. But what they could also do, and they could have done this without even a sweat, without even thinking about it. They could have proclaimed the teachings in the Torah and brought those teachings and all of that knowledge towards the public and persuaded the people under that, instead of all of this shenanigans that they're pushing on the television, being that they control 100% of the media. Plus they have their form of supremacy, like I've mentioned, of the planet Earth right now. They control very important positions in this society. So they could do this, but they choose not to do it. Why did they choose not to do it? Because they are not the people of the book. That's why. Their spirit, their actions prove, like I've said, they are not the people of the book. Okay? So now, let's further prove that. Let's read Isaiah 9 and verse 7 again, because I want to get into another point as well. Of the increase of his government in peace, there shall be no end. Just like I've mentioned, there should be peace, eternal peace between the king and as well as the people, and as well as even among all of them other nations, upon the throne of David and upon his kingdom, to order it and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth even forever. And the zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform this. So when they got to the land of Israel 75 years ago, or when the state was firstly established, this individual here, David Ben-Gurion, which was supposed to be the King David, he didn't perform the judgments of the law as they have it in their hands, as I've said, the Torah, right? And therefore there was no peace. this guy could have, and as well as the government that he was surrounded, which he's obviously was a part of the government construct. If you're a prime minister, you're a politician, you're a part of the government, right? But the thing of it is, this individual didn't establish a society by the Torah all the way through, because they have other books that they go by. All right, they didn't do that, and as well as they're not doing it right now, as I've mentioned that they could do. So these are not the people. And I mean, just by the looks of this guy, man, I mean, this is one ugly mug, if you ask me. You know, for the most part, when you look at these Amalekites, they're just plain old ugly people. You know, it's a rarity that you will see them as people that are that you could say are attractive, but for the most part, they're very ugly people. And the reason why they're ugly, because their spirit is in them is ugly. Even the world that's governed by them, it's ugly. All right, so how could these be the holies of the holies, man? Let's get real.